how those employees are actually stationed, and we thought they're pretty much identical. So it's just a matter of interpretation of what is removable goods and how do we want to define that. In recognizing that discrepancy, which I think I noted to you all when we first started this process, that part of what our role is as legal is to try to identify where these discrepancies exist or lie. We realized, all right, I think we need to have a general understanding of what that definition is. What does it mean that an employee has access to removable goods or equipment for purposes of saying they're a higher risk employee? Because every employee in the whole county has access to a pen, right?
Yeah.
And I could put that pen in my pocket and I could walk out the door and make it removable. But is that really what we're trying to address? And I don't think the answer is yes, right? So I've thought about this question too. I put it on the paper for us to discuss. I've pondered it a little myself. One of the thoughts that I had was maybe what we're trying to identify is whether or not an employee could remove goods of a significant value without others in the workplace knowing.
Yep.
I think that if I'm trying to define it, that seems to be where my mind goes. In other words, I could have access to a very expensive piece of equipment, but if we all work here in the same room, like, I can't steal it without you guys seeing that I stole it. Whereas, if I'm working off by myself and no one else is around, is this the type of item that could be removed without others knowing it? And or could it be removed and not necessary for my job? In other words, I wouldn't have any way of stealing my own computer because I need it for work the next day, right? So even though physically it's removable, practically it's not. So I think that, trying to put some sideboards on this definition is going to be necessary.
I'm looking at, more tools, more hand tools, things like that can add up.
Like an example would be our park employees. You're a seasonal person. They're all alone. They have access to an entire shop full of tools and equipment, and they go unsupervised for 8 hours a day, typical day. But then you look at anybody who has a key to the courthouse. Well, they come in here at midnight and have access to whatever their keys access. Where do we fit that in? Technically with my key, I could get access to all kinds of stuff after dark. And now, if it shows up missing Sydney tomorrow, it wasn't me. But
I think your point is very valid, Dave, and that's why I think trying to figure out what these sideboards look like is going to be important for our policy. Thoughts, comments, or recommendations for a definition, or you all just want me to run with it and create a definition and propose it to you?
Yeah, I would say
the latter.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that too, because it's, because we do have kind of a broad spectrum here.
We do.
But then I can see if we did something different with the locks and this and that.
And we could change some of that.
Also, I think this question kind of just speaks to what employees need more than the standard background check, right? So we've established we're going to background check all employees. So then what items are of enough value and what positions have access to those items that they need a higher standard check, right? That's kind of where this is leading to.
Or double checks, like maybe a credit check plus a...
Right, something like that. So it's something more than just the standard look back period that we would do as a county. So I think that kind of helps to target what things might be.
And I think our elected officials would have a pretty good idea of more in depth of whether they would need a higher background check for maybe financial and background check and things like that. But
okay, I think we've got our marching orders there. Next question is, designed to identify what we want to do with this credit check. And part of it is we had various department heads or elected officials say, yeah, I want a credit check, or no, I don't want a credit check. To some degree, I think you as a BOCC are going to be sitting down at the end of this and kind of reviewing everyone's responses and saying, all right, we agree with that, and now we're going to adjust that. So I think that there's going to be kind of that fine tuning that happens at the end. But before we even get there, I think we need to identify, okay, we're doing this credit check. What sort of metrics or standards do we want? I mean, it's nice to say, well, you've got access to money, so you need to do a credit check. But if we do that credit check and your score is 400, does that mean you're not employed? How about 500? How about 600? Where's our line and what's the significance of that line?
Right.
Do we have any guidance from none? Does any of the counties do that?
They do, and there's a federal requirement that there's like a Fair Credit Reporting Act. And basically the only provisions I've found so far just say the county will adhere to the requirements of the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Oh,
Essentially, it's substantially what it is.
Okay.
And there's really not much more than that. Again, that's just the
Yeah.
samples I found. I can do a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we probably need to look into that, because that's something that, and which employees, I know people, they don't deal with money, you know, they may deal with money, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you know, the treasurer's office, they don't write
No,
checks.
no, they don't. They don't have
So they don't
access
have
to. Yeah.
Well, the second part of the question, I think, is easy to answer. I think we've already ruled out poor credit as a automatic disqualification because it didn't fit violent felonies. But what constitutes poor credit? I don't know, and I've never done a credit check on anybody. I don't know what those reports even. I mean, I know what my own looks like. I don't know what it would.
I think we probably need to reach out to see what other counties are kind of doing. See what they're.
I can add that to Isaac's follow-up to-do list.
And how they're looking at it and why. What purpose it is.
Yeah, like which areas,
Yeah.
what parts of the departments and for credit
Because I know when I did, like, I had, with the grant deal that I'm doing with the Department of Agriculture, they ran a credit check and everything on me and had to be fingerprinted in order to be on their board. So, and then same way with I'm on the PAC board. That's the same thing. You know, they run a background check. So, you know, I'm not sure how. You know, what do they look at? How do they look at it?
Like in the military, they looked at credit checks for my clearance to see if you would be prone to bribery or something for giving up information, or like they caught a guy selling his access to the base. So they used credit checks, but I don't know how they used the credit check. They just, I mean, I don't know what numbers they went by or anything, but credit check was there to determine if you would be tempted to be dishonest.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. We'll do some more digging. We'll see if we can come up with some more concrete recommendations for y'all.
Okay.
Those are all the questions I've got for today. So any questions from any of the commissioners?
No.
Any public comment?
Oh, yes. The first one, about what degree each department's permitted to modify, I would think you would want to stay consistent all the way around. Kind of like the pay matrix that was done here. One department got raises because of no reason. One department didn't get raises. It has to be consistency in what you're doing. Or another example, Melissa hires Sydney. Sydney got something in her record. She modifies it because they're best friends. So to me, it has to be consistent straight across for everybody, unless you guys changed it. And then the third one for the, how long the background checks has to be kept. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I would think it would kind of run with the drug testing, that if you don't hire somebody because they flunked their drug test, how long do you have to keep that to keep yourself out of a lawsuit? And access to removable goods. I agree that the more people around, the less chance you're to take something. But then you have to define which jobs you're alone at. And I'm not picking on anybody, but there's departments here that only work one person on Fridays. So that gives the opportunity. Roads department, of course, they have the opportunity. They're working alone most of the time. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Anything, any other comments from this?
Appreciate the hard work.
Yes, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
I think from this point, I want to keep this moving for you guys while it's fresh in everyone's mind. So I anticipate taking this feedback. I'm going to have Isaac expedite his follow-up. And I'd like to try to get you guys at least a working draft by the end of the week.
Okay.
That's my goal.
All right.
It'll be a working draft. It'll be there for you
Okay.
guys to beat up.
Right.
And then we'll at least have something that we can circulate and modify. If maybe we want to go ahead and just pencil this into the agenda for next week so we can just keep it going.
Okay.
And we'll solicit our preliminary feedback from the VOCC next week and then hopefully circulate it to the various departments and elected heads after that for input. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain time, certain date next week that you're available and Sydney can?
Sydney usually gives me a call on
Okay.
Thursday afternoons, and
Okay.
we usually crunch calendars together. So,
All right. Well, that'll work.
all right.
There's nothing further. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.